This is, we changed the sessions. This session was supposed to be on Thursday and we moved it up. This is the OpenEmbedded BoF. If this is being recorded, so please use a microphone if you have questions. There are 2 microphones up here. You have to walk up here. And Anders there has the other wireless mic. So since last time, we've started the reference build project, which is supposed to be the new base for all Linaro-based open embedded work. And that is supposed to be used by builds and baselines, networking, and home group. And I can tell a lot about it, but I would like to have questions from the audience to see what you think about it, what your expectations are, or about something else, if you have any problems with how we use OE or how you want to see OE to be used. So, Anders, you had a question about how to handle the open data plane development.
I'm not sure I had a question about it. I think I know how to solve it with a stable release and then use the rev thing to bump it.
So the solution to your specific problem was to just stay with the release that we release every month and then only update your application being ODP?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I know. So I started with reference platform build, and I said, maybe we have questions from the audience, how they want to see it handled. So, Ricardo, what do you want to see in the OE RBP? And please come forward and speak into the microphone. Or Anders as the...
So, well, basically what we're trying to do now is kind of specifically for the 9.6 boards, as you saw before, like with the Qualcomm and the Linden team, and also like other teams, is trying to find out like what they actually want, what they want to produce. And what we currently have now is, of course, like we need to produce the reference layers, including what we call like the reference images. You know, like as we discussed before, like the Wayland and you know, like some other, or just like console, minimal, that kind of thing. And during the process is like, for example, I think the home group, as they're doing like their own reference as well, implementation, like using Wayland with ClearKey and so on. So I think we just need to understand better like with what kind of each of the team is actually working on at this stage, this point, and trying to see what is common and what is shared, and move that like to the reference side of things, and then of course like work with the other overlays that are specific to each of the boards for the BSB enablement. I think like the Qualcomm has their own like overlay, so they're not going to be moving everything for the reference one, which is kind of not our idea. But we do want to make sure that at least like the kind of the reference images and components and so on that are part of the our own overlays, including like the unified kernel, the bootloaders, and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the message that I have at this stage. Of course, like I still need to understand better the kind of the requirements that they're pushing at this stage.
So one of the things we have implemented is meta backports layer, where we take newer versions
is one of the key things,
of software. In this case, it was Mesa, libdrm, and friends. So we can use updated versions of that for the Dragon board, in this case Freedreno. And I know that LHG wants to have newer versions of Wayland and Weston as well.
Right.
And we can put in that layer, and that layer is generally useful for the open embedded crowd that want to stay with the release branch but want to have updated software. So we want to move that to git.joctoproject.org to say this is a generic layer, everyone can use it. And we as Linaro will maintain it because we need it for our efforts. So that was one of the big things, because people keep wanting the newest software but a stable base, and the backwards layer was a bit of a compromise for that.
Yeah, that's kind of the everyone kind of had the different needs. Like they need like a newer Wayland, or they need a newer driver, newer kernel, and so on. We can of course like try to get in some of the common grounds, like kernel, for example. But then, how do you see the best way to maintain? And like for example, when I get a requirement for a new Wayland version, we could of course like push to the backboards overlay. But then we're going to be maintaining that over the time. But we also want to make sure that those changes end up like going upstream as well, right, on the development release. So what from your perspective, what is kind of the best way to maintain that and then start like including?
Well, we call it meta backports for a reason. So it's backported. The idea is to take a recipe from the master branches and then backport it to the stable branches. So it's already upstream, but
it's kind of like that then, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that basically solves the sending it upstream problem. But then maintenance is always hard, because right now we will be doing maintenance for Wayland, but in, what is it, a month from now we might stop caring about it.
I think that is one of the key things that the Reference project can help a little bit, is trying to work with the different teams to set up the needs like in a specific, like kind of milestones or like periods of time and the things that we want to support. So we can make sure that we maintain that over the time.
Right.
So I think we can get a list of things that we want to keep like, like improving and supporting. Yeah. I think that's okay.
On the other hand, OE is on a 6-month cycle. So in theory, we would rebase our work in a 6-month cycle. So since they're backports, we would hope that they have been applied in the last month, so we would automatically get that.
Right.
And things, in this case, Wayland, it should be easy enough to maintain because more people want that, and we're focused on that. But I don't know, for more obscure versions of software, we have to look at it a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, sure. So I think the kind of the clear message that I saw is that we first need to understand the requirements from different teams, right? What do they actually want? From the Reference platform project, perspective at this stage is simply, we have stuff that we want to share with different projects and different needs. So we can let's try to set up like somewhere like an overlay or something and put those pieces in there so people can consume and use. But then of course, like we still want to understand what the other teams are working on and trying to find a kind of a default workflow for kind of Linaro, any kind of OpenEmbedded related work that we have in Linaro. So we make sure that things are going upstreams, like going like to the backboards and it's maintained. We also like produce binary images for validation and that kind of thing. So we still need to define this whole workflow.
And we need to find, when we start, find a baseline for what works. So say we do a release, we know what works. We can say Wayland works on all the consumer edition boards. We update it to 1.20 or whatever, and it breaks on high key. Then we can say like, this is a bad idea to backport because it breaks on one of the boards. But since we have no baseline, we can't really say that yet. So the upgrade is a bit blind because we have the the home group saying we need a newer Wayland. So we backport Wayland, then it turns out that they're using a different kernel because that has the driver needed to get Wayland actually working. So it's
that's the thing that we want to fix with the Reference platform. Is like stop forking things.
Yeah, but it's sadly too easy to do, and it's also hard to keep track of. It's a bit of a communication problem because we get approached by the home group and they send us patches, we give review comments, and then they go away, and then a week later you get a comment like, we implemented everything and it works for us now. So like, yeah, but it's not really sustainable.
Right, yeah, that's the main thing that I want to change is want to try to get people together and start working more on with you included and building baselines and so on to make sure that we are aligned and we know the kind of the work that they're required, so we can help as well. Sometimes they're struggling with something that other people already help solve. So I do hope more improvement is on this topic over the next few weeks, so we can start either have meetings, we get everyone in sync, discuss the requirements, and then of course just plan to work.
Right. Another thing that should be mentioned, we implemented the reference platform build layer as a collection of distros, because some things are mutually exclusive. It's hard to support both Wayland and X11 for. You can install them side by side, but then you have, for example, Qt 11, and you can either build Wayland or X11. So you have to make a choice. So we implemented that as separate distros to make it clear to people using it. If you change something like this, it has now become a separate distro, which is, when you look at all the other reference platform builds, the Debian build, your message basically is, no, we're not a distro. And on the OE side, it's like, we're a lot of distros. So that's an important thing to keep in mind, that on the OE side, we talk about this being multiple separate distros.
Right.
Which is different from how OE distributions has been handled traditionally, because if you look at the Yocto project documentation, is basically take the Pocky distribution, change everything, but keep calling it Pocky, and that's really confusing for people, because then you have the LNG Pocky, the LHD Pocky, and the builds and baseline Pocky, and they're all incompatible. So we're trying to make it clearer that we have an RBP distro, we have an RBP Wayland distro, and we might get an RBP networking distro or something like that if there's an incompatible change.
Yeah, I think that's the approach that we should take, definitely.
And it's a bit unfortunate that the session was moved forward, so we don't have all the people in the audience that wanted to attend. It would be nice to have Nicola and Cam here to offer their insight.
I think we can move, of course, like the discussion after Connect, but we do want to, like get in touch at least like the home group that's doing like most of the work. I know that the network working group as well, like they have their own requirements, and want to make sure that we know what they're working on. But of course, like later on, we can get everyone together in sync on the topics that are required.
So one of the other changes I mentioned that before is that we're now building from a release branch. So the current OE setup scripts that we use build master for everything, and we will continue doing that, but the default for the RBP distro is built from the latest OE release branch, which is Jeffro, and it's now 4 months old or so. So we try to keep the most recent release that will keep upstream related build breakage to a minimum, instead of what we're doing right now with OpenEmbedded, where basically at the start of the week we fix problems, and at Friday we have a working build, and on Monday we start fixing build breakage again. And that is a bit more user-friendly to use, especially combined with the backports repo for people who need more up-to-date things. Like for 96 boards, you needed a more recent system D.
Yeah, I don't know what system D version in there, but we do. Well, the Destiny Debian was like unfortunate. They use like a version that like has a lot of problems.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does anyone else from the audience have any questions or suggestions or remarks?
What if, from the networking group, I remember they discussed it before, that it was like mainly useful for validation and including the minimum that are required just like to validate the stack. Is there like any other requirement from your side, like related to OpenEmbedded?
No.
It's just pretty much that. Yeah. Yeah, the home group, like, too bad Zoltan is not around. They did quite a lot of work in there.
Yeah, they do a lot of work, but they tend to be isolated because I suspect they're on more deadlines than we are.
You would be surprised by the reasons, but yeah, that is one of the reasons.
Because sometimes it's hard for us at Builds and Baselines to see what's the time frame for the request. Like, oh, we have this problem. Like, oh, sure, we'll help you with it, and we don't realize that their deadline is 2 weeks from now.
Right. All right. And of course, like, with something that that we need to get Robert involved with as well, to start like OpenEmbedded. A big part of it, of course, like is getting everything going in there, like the recipes and overlays and so on. But the whole idea of having the reference like overlays and such is for people to build their own images, right?
Yes.
So we need to make sure that documentation is a big part of it and is properly done.
The Jira card says implementation, and documentation, and
Right.
we have the fundamentals for the implementation. That works. We need some tweaking to flush out some bugs, but we don't have any documentation yet on how to do that. And like I said, we're doing a bit differently, and in my opinion, the best way with multiple distros, and that clashes with the Yocto project documentation. So we really need our own set of documentation saying what we do and why we do it.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise, we could have reused it. And
yeah. And we do have like someone dedicated, of course, like has other priorities as well, but I think something that we need to do is like mostly you, I guess, or we got like some other people who are like mostly aware of the work that we're doing on OpenEmbedded, is to kind of sit down with him and, you know, like kind of describe the work so he has like a better understanding of the scope, and then like start like working together with him to like reviewing and pushing things and that kind of thing. I'll make sure like to ask him to talk with you in there, and then we can like start like having a proper like planning.
Sure. Fafi, do you have any items you want to discuss during this BoF? No. Yeah, basically I covered the big change, which is RBP, and you just changed you explained what the requirements were. Honors didn't have a problem anymore, so.
I think that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. I'm out of things to speak about if no one has any questions, suggestions.
I think like kind of the question from your side, since you've been involved in this Linaro like longer, what are kind of the main projects and works that are kind of driving the need for OpenEmbedded internally at this stage?
I think the most visible one is the home group,
right?
Because of the RDK work and the derivatives. The other bulk of the mail I get is from the networking group, but that's, I think, invisible to the outside.
Yeah.
So I don't know how heavy they use it. Anders shakes his head. So it's basically for internal testing.
Yeah.
Well, it's simply because these segments are using OpenEmbedded. This is what in networking area. Yeah, so the home group, as part of what we deliver for Comcast, we choose OpenEmbedded. So that's what we use. And for networking group, same thing. The members are using OpenEmbedded. So that's what we choose for the CI and as a method of the delivery.
But I do thought you guys are constantly integrating the toolchain or something on the line as well? Like,
yeah, so this is another part of what we do for OpenEmbedded. We do also some validation and testing of the toolchain. So the toolchain is integrated into a Linaro layer. So everybody can benefit from that and use the toolchain, Linaro toolchain.
But that's kind of basically it, right?
Yeah, this is the use case that we have right now.
All right.
It started as part of the bring up of ARM64 on
right.
OE, but now it's merged into OE core, so the layer is gone, and what is remaining is all the use case that we have for networking group and the home group.
And I think there's going to be kind of a big push, and I think this is why like Qualcomm wanted to start like pushing a little bit more on this, is anything IoT related, right? Because of course like they want to start like pushing more like IoT on with Dragon Board, but later on we might have like different hardware platforms.
That is my expectation as well. I haven't heard from anyone from the light group, but that's two people. That's Matlock and Kumar right now.
Right.
I suspect they want to use OE in some use cases as well. Most likely because Intel has their IoT layer done with basically from top to bottom, from the server end to the device end as well. So it would be easy to bootstrap some IoT like thingy with OE. But yeah, someone needs to request it or start working on it.
Yeah, we got in touch with them later. I think of course like they're just bootstrapping the project, so there's a lot of more core things ongoing this stage. But yeah, I think we're gonna see like ramping that up like later on and more requirements.
But
But like for now, I think I think Qualcomm is basically gonna drive this a little bit more with Dragon. So we just need to be sure that we're aligned with them.
Yeah. And then Nico has done a lot on this, so it's good to have him on board.
Yeah, exactly. It's easy to work with them, like on the OpenEmbedded side. All right.
New members from the audience.
It's a trap. You get in, you have to talk. Oh yeah, that's true.
So,
it's an OpenEmbedded, right?
LEG is working on LoveOS, which is the Linux UEFI verification operating system, and that's basically a RAM disk that runs ACPI tools and things like that. And Intel has created a bleeping awful layer, doing it completely the wrong way. And as part of a card, I've cleaned it up, and that needs to go back upstream, but Intel is hard to work with.
Also, Intel is maintaining that project then. Right, okay.
So basically, I probably need to send my patches to NRS or something, or well, patches that basically everything has been replaced. There's no similarity. That's what we worked on as well. And yeah.
Yeah, so I think the idea is really to provide the same feature using OICO.
Yes. So
we don't really need LoveOS.
yeah, because LoveOS is basically a collection of ACPI packages and a script to run them. So there's not much in them, and the LoveOS layer was basically either version updates or missing things for tools. For example, the ACPI CA tool is already in Meta OE, and they had a copy of it, so we could just delete that. In the end, the layer can be.
Yeah, I think that if we can like kind of somehow like get rid of it in a sense, having it in OpenEmbedded and so on, it's better for us because at least like on removing like the marketing, the project naming, and that kind of thing. But because then like if you're once we're developing the reference kernel as well and doing all the work, we can also like validate, you know, like similarly.
So the biggest problem I had with LoveOS was that the people at Intel couldn't take any critic, be it constructive or anything else, so that's a dead end. And people in Linaro working on it were like, why should we spend time on making this a proper layer, because it's an Intel project.
And who is, like internally, who's driving that?
LEG.
LEG, but who from LEG? So is there like a need to use LiveOS, or like it would be fine to instead start like relying more on OpenEmbedded and having the same functionality?
Intel actually says like they are the maintainers of this project, so they are not ready to change anything, how it operates, like how it executes the stuff. If we are planning to create some layers or something like that, I don't know. I don't think they will accept this stuff.
Oh no, they will not accept. I mean, like the question is more like, let's suppose we can move most of that to OpenEmbedded and start like using that internally instead of LiveOS. Would that like be okay from your perspective, or like do you have like a requirement to work and improve the LiveOS project as part of Linaro?
We are going to improve the LoveOS because there are a lot of features are being added.
Okay.
So now this release, probably this week or next week, they're going to release it with a lot more features that we're going to work on the work it on the ARM64 to make it work actually.
Oh, okay.
So if that answers your questions, or
a little bit, yeah, but. Yeah, we need to, I don't know, like the technical details in there like that might be required, but I'm just like trying to see how we can better work with that without being blocked by upstream, basically, by Intel.
biggest issue with LoveOS is the OE work is done by people who, at Intel, who don't know anything about OE. So that's the biggest issue. So you can send a patch and they go like, what does that patch do? I don't get it. My version builds, I ship it.
All right.
So if we only need the features, then no problem. But if we need the brand LoveOS, then yes, we have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. That's why the concern. All right. I don't know.
I don't think the security group is doing anything.
They were doing like the OPT validation, but I don't know if it
we
was
have a card
embedded,
open to integrate OPT, but I don't think they're using it internally.
No, we aren't using OpenEmbedded yet, but OP is going to be integrated into OE, or we need to
Yeah.
add that, and it's going to be used by ARM.
Right, so ARM wants OPT and upstream OE. That's what we at B&B are going to work on about.
One thing that we have mentioned as well is Big Indian.
Oh, Big Endian support. Yeah, we have Meta Big Endian where we have basically fixes to get Big Endian builds to work on ARM v7 and ARM v8. That it has shrunk a lot because a lot of patches went either in upstream OE or upstream fixed things, but there's still odds and ends there. I'm not sure if anyone is actually using the output right now. I know they were using it a year ago.
There's a networking group using that's the consumer of
Yeah, networking group.
Yeah, so for Big Indian, networking group is using that. This is the stakeholder for Big Indian. But Toolchain is also using Big Indian because they want to do some testing and validation for Big Indian platforms. So this is something we own and test. Yeah, there's a special case that we probably don't want to mention is ILP32. So we try to have some testing and validation on the patch set that has been submitted in mainline. So we have a request for check. So we have set up a build using a kernel with dispatch set and also a root file system using glibc patches. So and we try to validate ILP32 with that. There's a similar project that has been just started because ARM has decided to do the same for general purpose distro. So Debian is going to include ILP32, and Wookie is working on that stuff. Long term, I don't know if we are going to continue to do some images with the ILP32. It depends how much people are interested into that and who's using that. Right now, the main stakeholder for that is a members company. So ST and TI are driving that work. And Cavium, obviously.
So that's just like ARM v8 in the beginning. If you need to bring up a weird or new architecture, you can do it really easy with OE. It's a lot faster than patching half of Debian.
OE is very good for architecture bring up.
Yeah. So I've run out of things to talk about. I think we covered internal usage.
I'm interested to hear about LNG because that's the next we discussed about including p-test.
Yes.
There's some discussion right now around. Yeah. So there's some also discussion about the runtime testing software provided by Yocto, how we can leverage that work.
I looked at that, and that looks basically like a Lava replacement. So I'm not entirely sure if that would be a good fit in Linaro. It would be nice if we can hook up p-test and have Lava execute the p-test tests, but it looked like the OE runtime testing is basically a poor man's Lava.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interest into p-test, but we don't progress that much on this area, I think.
Right, we don't do, and it was mainly driven by Victor for p-test.
Any comment about that, Anders, on p-test and how you wanted to see progressed on OE?
We use p-test in our on ODP, but we only enable it for ODP, not for everything, right? So, not sure if it's good to enable it for all. I'm not sure if we need to do that. I'm not sure if it makes sense.
Yeah, so basically well, p-test is an interesting feature, but you want to enable it only on some cases, not distro-wide.
Right, yeah. You could do it distro-wide, but that's mainly only for testing because you really fill up your file system with extra test files and descriptions and extra things. So it would be an idea to just have an RPB p-test distro and see how that works out. Or we could see if we could finagle the CI jobs or special image recipes where we just enable the feature like we have in the ODP image. I think we only enable it for ODP.
It makes sense for ODP because we develop that frequently and the testing is really bad in ODP, I think. So it's good to have it in, to test it in OE on a daily basis when on commit. But for stable packages, it's no need to run p-test there on a daily basis. On odd architectures, yes, when you bring it up. But after that, I'm not sure if that made sense.
Yeah, so mainly for regression testing for new releases. I guess we could, for RPB, we could install it for the things we want to do if we change kernels, because the application might stay the same, but we have moved something it depends on. So we have 10 minutes left.
Maybe you want to say a word about what being member of Yocto project is going to change for us.
So Linaro joined the Yocto project. We're a member now. Nicolas de Chesney will be on the advisory board, so he gets to visit all the interesting places. So short term, not much will change. On the longer term, we get some more visibility. We can host Linaro layers on git.yoctoproject.org, so it nicely shows up on the list. We can participate in the Yocto Developer Day. Yocto Developer Day always has a bit of hardware that companies sponsor. It's the Intel Minnow board or the TI BeagleBone, and now we can just say the Dev Day will be using the Dragon board for 10C, for example. So that will be the visible changes. And also we get a vote on the advisory board, but the advisory board is for the Yocto project, which technically has nothing to say about the OpenEmbedded project. So the influence we have within OE has remained the same, but we now have a vote in the Yocto project, and if we say we want something in a Yocto project release, we have an extra vote to get that feature in. So if we say this OE runtime thing, we shouldn't focus Yocto resources on that, we should focus on Lava, and here we have a few engineers we can provide to work on that. That's now possible, but we need to see if such scenarios make sense and if we want to do that. But from an engineering perspective, there's will be not much change or to no change at all. I think that's it. Thank everyone for attending.
Thank you.